Hi there, my name's Tanya and I'm from Ink Responsibly. Today I'm going to show you how to make this bench fold card. And you can see it's a beautiful 3D card. And to mail it, you simply push up the bench and fold it flat. And that will fit into any standard business size envelope. So let's get started. For this project, you're going to need a sheet of basic black cardstock. Now, this measures 4 1/8 of an inch by 11 3/4. So that's half of an A4 sized sheet of cardstock. You're going to need a 3 7/8 inch square sheet of real red cardstock. Another piece of basic black cardstock that measures 2 inches by 8 inches. Some crumb cake cardstock and some soft suede cardstock. In addition to that, we're going to need some silver foil cardstock. So let's get started. To start, we're going to take our 4 1/8 by 11 3/4 piece of cardstock and we're going to score that down at 2 inches, then flip it over and then at 3 7/8. Then on the other side, 2 inches, flip it over, 3 7/8. And that will give us the base of our card. Now with our crumb cake cardstock, we're going to take, I'm using this die and it's to create a pegboard. If you don't have a die similar to that, you could use a wood grain stamp or embossing folder. You could also use a checker plate embossing folder, or you could punch out the holes yourself. And here is my cut piece for that. Now, we need to cut this to size, and I'm going to cut that at 3 3/4. And I'm just going to glue that into place. Now once that's done, we're going to create our wood paneling for the side here. So taking my soft suede cardstock, and I'm going to use coordinating soft suede ink. I'm using the Pinewood Planks embossing folder for this, but you could use any textured embossing folder for this technique. And using your brayer, just roll the ink onto your embossing folder. So once you've inked up your embossing folder, carefully lay down your cardstock, and then we're going to run that through the Big Shot. And this is what we have. Now I'm going to cut this down to size, so I need this cut at 3 7/8 of an inch long by 1 7/8 of an inch wide, and I'm going to cut 2 of those. So what we need to do before we stick our embossed side panels on, we take our 2 by 8 inch piece, and on the bottom of our outer wings, I'm just placing a little fast fuse. I open up my base card out, and then I'm going to line up this piece here on the left hand side, stick it down, and then I'm just going to fold in my right hand side and stick that down. So this is what we have, okay, and that will fold either left or right. So now I'm going to take my embossed side panels and stick that down. And this is what we have. So we still have our U shape and our piece here, and we've hidden most of the workings there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our red piece that measures 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and I've just scored this at 2 inches. So when you fold it, you can see that one piece is 1/8 of an inch smaller. I'm going to place some adhesive onto the 2-inch piece, and very carefully I'm going to glue this down so I can just see the score line. And I have stuck this red panel behind this piece here. So now just taking a scrap of black cardstock, anywhere between 3/4 and 1 inch wide, I'm going to measure this area here and then add 2 inches. So this area measures 4 inches wide, so I'm going to cut this at 6 inches. And I'm just going to fold in 1 inch either end. And this is what I have. So now taking your fuse, I have put fast fuse on the ends here. And then I will stick this end to there and this side to the right hand side. So you can see that there. And then my bench will fold over. So I've cut out some shapes out of silver foil cardstock, and there's a few different brands on the market. I've got the Build It framelets, and they're a retired set from Stampin' Up, but you can also buy Marion Creatables. They have a great set of dies that you can use, and I'm sure there's many others on the market as well. So I've cut them out of silver foil, but I've also gone and cut them out of my cork. And I've used some of our Sizzix sticky sheets and run that through the Big Shot and simply layer the pieces on like so. Rightio, there's those. Now using some dimensionals, just pop some dimensionals onto the back of your die cut shapes. And 1, 2, 3. Place them on. And with these little screws and nuts, I'm just going to place a little bit of glue on them and stick them down directly to the cardstock. Okay, now we're going to place some cork onto the top of our workbench. So I've got some cork ribbon, but you can also use cork sheets for this. So I need a piece that measures 3 3/4 by 1 3/4 inches. And I'm just going to stick that down with some fast fuse. So lay your card flat. And stick that down. And onto there, using some extra dimensionals, I'm going to place my spanner or wrench. And I think I'll pop a few more screws onto that. Now, because I'm going to be gluing onto cork, I'm going to use my Tombow. You need a really high strength tacky glue to stick to ribbon or cork. There we go. Now we're ready to do our cupboard doors that sit underneath. So once you've got that done, I'm going to take a strip of an embossed ruler that I've made, again with the silver, and I want it to sit along the top here. So I'm just going to flip it over the other side. Take some snips and just cut that off. And I'll just line that up with the top of my card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry emboss this with a checker plate embossing folder. And this is what I have when I'm finished. I'm going to heat emboss over the top of this. So using your embossing buddy, really get that powder onto it to get rid of any static. Then just placing a piece of copy paper underneath. And I save an old Versamark pad for this technique. I'm just going to very lightly, applying no pressure, just drag that along the surface of our embossed panel. And now using some silver embossing powder, sprinkle it over the top. And heat it up. And once you've heated it, this is what you have. It's absolutely gorgeous. So just tip back your leftover embossing powder. So to make our doors, I need 2 squares that measure 1 7/8 of an inch square. And using some dimensionals, I'm going to just place a few on the back. Now before I stick that on, I need my door handles. Now I've punched out a 1/2 inch circle again with the silver foil, and I've just folded that in half. Using some Tombow, I'm going to just stick that onto one of my squares. And again with the other side. Now just stick them in place. So lay your card base flat. Now when I'm centering something, I just lightly rest it on there in case I need to make any adjustments. So I've just got one rested down, and it's important that this matches up. So if they're right, then you just go in for the stick. Push them down into place. So now we need to be able to keep this bench flat. In order to do that, we're going to place a sentiment here. Now I'm going to take 2 stamps from Guy Greetings stamp set. I'm going to use the Happy Birthday and the Tools. So taking my smoky slate ink pad and my tools, I'm going to create a background pattern. So I'm just going to stamp off once and then stamp down. And now I'm going to stamp my greeting in basic black archival. Now I'm going to cut out this using a hexagon shape. I'm going to cut one out of here and one out of Real Red. And this is what I have. But what I want to do is I want to stick this one down onto here, but they're the same size. So just using some scissors, I'm going to go around my hexagon and just take off a small amount off the edge. And this is what we have. And pop some dimensionals onto the back. And then we're going to pop this in place. So when you're working out where it's going to go, place your bench down and then just center this so that it works as a locking device for your bench card. And now if we want to fold our card flat, you just push up your bench and then lay it flat.